agencies, the least we could ever have is 11. So it's fully formed. It's got the head is about 4 times the size of our head. But it's very intriguing, this disclosure project that Sirius is the name of the movie. But I don't agree with everything on these people. It's just like any of these researchers. But it's like so many people I disagree with on economic issues. But at the end of the day, I say, do I trust this person? Do I think they're a righteous person? And I say yes. Then I say, well, listen, I'm going to give you the greatest compliment I ever could. I would trust you to run the Federal Reserve Bank, okay? To be in charge and represent we the people as a whole, a collective. And the interests are all just as important, from the poorest to the richest. Equal rights, equal entitlements, and our interests should be seen as equal. So, again, I feel like that. I think Stephen Greer is a pretty trustworthy guy, all in all, at the end of the day. And so many people. I mean, I started naming names last week. And then I realized, wait a minute. What was it? It was like 90+% of the American people that are against that bailout of '08. That on some kind of an intuitive level, because I don't think it all could have been intellectual, they understood that this was wrong. That's not going to be good somehow. That you bail out criminals, that they've legitimized what previously was illegal, all these people would be in jail for. But yet they were made well-heeled. They were too big to fail. They were too big to jail. They privatized the profits and socialized the debt. People knew that was wrong on an intuitive level. So I would trust over 90% of the American people with the keys to the town, with the money printing operation, the issuance of currency, to figure this thing out, what progress means. It's based on logic and natural market principles. It's not tinkering with it. It's not messing with it by these subsidies and stuff. They just screw everything up, man. And it has to be a demand. Remember, you got to put your foot down. You got to know these people are murderous. They don't care if a vast majority of people die from their policies. They just want to, keep their lot. They want to keep their place in this establishment. And it's sick and sordid. And it's a shame that we have to walk through this muck and mire. But we do. And unless we confront it, we're not going to change it. The amount of tyranny we accept is the amount we'll live under, okay? And how we're being tyrannized is through the money, this corrupt, capitalist system that has been shoved down our throats, okay? Through the debasement of the currency. This is how they're stealing your wealth, okay? Very nuanced. Do you understand? You got to get it. You got to understand that it's a bad thing. You do not want your cost of living to go up. And in particular, those essential human need commodities. I'm talking about housing, food, potable water, your energy needs, and first and foremost, all those things first. Okay, clothing is even, that falls under a different category. Okay, luxury items and trinkets and knickknacks of every imaginable sort, every luxury item the mind reels, right? All that stuff too would go down in price. But if they were going to, rig markets, I wouldn't even object if they're, fixing Bitcoin prices or fixing gold or silver or oil, whatever. Well, oil's an energy thing. So yes, I would object. I think all those industries that deal in essential human needs should be highly regulated. What, by the government, the precious government, by making laws? No. Why, we the people, the law that is already in place called the Constitution, which is representative of all of us, okay? That's how it should be implemented and seen. That's why we the people all get a vote on the issuance, the printing of currency, how this thing works, and how we're going to find progress, and who we listen to, who we trust on this matter to actually attain real progress, okay, in this realm. Okay, that's it. So we all have the capacity to understand these things, folks. We can't deny it. Last time I was talking about the immigration thing, how it's not about just keeping blue-collar working class, the working poor, labor class in their place in this country, keep them from getting cocky, and don't ever think about getting a union started here or there anymore. That's done. That's history. Okay, they like that. These elitist scum love that. Okay, that's fine. Okay, because now guys like Alex Jones are starting to sound like I used to sound like about this raising wages, and Trump sounded like that. But listen, that's not going to be good for business. Okay, so now I'm changing my tune. I say that would have worked. Yes, like the Glass-Steagall Act would have worked. But once it was gone, it's not like let's re-implement it. And everybody else starting to shut up, realize that that ship sailed. Okay, that's history now. We need a new tact. And it's the same thing with wages. Okay, that people keeping wages down will be a part of keeping the current. That's what the only thing that's kept the currency worth anything in the first place is that wages have dragged behind this whole thing. But yes, I would have supported using wages as a check and balance and just say, look, if there was a cost of living increase, if that means that if they debased our currency, we all know who they are, the criminals, highfalutin politicians that are validating what the money printing class do. This debt, this national debt, they're debasing our currency through cost of living inflation. Okay, if your cost of living goes up, that means the worth of your currency went down. So I would support minimum wage going up commensurately, proportionately, equivalently with whatever the cost of living was, so that you maintain a balance. You see, and that would have disincentivized all these market manipulators and price rigging and fixers out there, these special interest groups that have an interest in screwing you over by doing this. Because then you could point a finger and say, well, don't blame labor. They weren't the ones that manipulated markets and rigged prices. They're not a special interest group. They're we the people. They're the lowest of we the people. Okay? But their interests are just as important as Jesus' interests. Like he said, whatsoever you do or fail to do for the least of men, you do or fail to do for me. So they're equivalent under the Constitution too. Their interests of the working poor, the working class, blue-collar people out there that do very important jobs. I don't care if it requires little skill. It's still very important, right? Or else they wouldn't have a job. There's nobody doing any jobs that aren't important unless it's just some maniacal subsidy program the government, again, is running. Okay, who we can trust fully, right? So yes, that would have acted as a check and balance against cost of living inflation. You could say, well, no, don't blame the workers, blame those market manipulators. That's what should have been done. And it would have prevented everything. But now that ship sailed. It's too late to say that we're going to fix it by price, raising the cost of labor, okay? And I can't believe I'm saying this myself, but I mean it. We've got to take the bull by the horns here and just understand the gravity of this situation. Okay, we need our cost of living to go down. We need cost of living deflation because automatically it's like getting a raise. If your money is worth more, if your paycheck you get $250 a week, whatever you're clearing, okay, guess what? That's going to be worth $350, then $450. Who cares about raises or cost of living adjustments? Do you understand how this thing works? So I hope I've made myself, I have made myself as clear as I possibly can. I'm not a very good speaker, but I do my best to be honest and to know the math involved here, to know basic logic and reason. And I'm studied. I do know the great economists out there. I know the teachings of guys like Milton Friedman and Adam Smith and John Keynes. Okay, I know what they say, and I agree with most. Austrian economics. Look. I'm studied on this issue. I've taken classes too. I know what I'm talking about here, and I know this thing can work. And I just know there's people that don't want it to work. That the solutions to the problem is the problem for these people. And that's a big problem for everybody. So we've all got to get it, what we're looking for, what the evidence is, what the metric is, what the gauge is. Okay? What the litmus test is in a year from now. Is your currency worth more relative to your basic cost of living, housing, food, potable water, energy? And if so, then Trump is a success. He might have to take 2 steps forwards and 1 back. Okay, that's still getting the job done. Okay, so there is a degree of compromise here. And you don't put the cart in front of the horse. Okay, that means you got to do things in orderly fashion so you don't get rid of welfare right away. You need that because of how they've wrecked up the system. They've created the poverty. You understand? You're going to have more crime if you got rid of all the welfare tomorrow. Remember, they got to kick your grandma off Social Security once she's paid for any work she earned, any work that she, did, and all the Social Security taxes she paid into it. Once that has been exhausted, then your granny comes off Social Security and she's living with you. That's the way it would work. You understand? So why you don't put the cart in front of the horse? You do this in an orderly fashion with the right protocol here to be compassionate and say, well, don't blame the poor anyhow. That's just the effect. That's the wreckage of what these people have done. Who are the people? The causers of the problem? Again, the money printing class in concert, in collusion with these high-ranking political class that legitimize and validate what they do. So let's all be very clear how this thing works. So you don't get rid of welfare right away. In fact, you might have to increase it temporarily until you fix the problem. So if you bought people houses, you say, well, that would cost the government a lot. But the problem's done. No more spending $50 billion a year. What is that in 10 years? $50 billion a year? $500 billion. In 20 years, okay, what is that? $1 trillion goes just into the Section 8 housing to prevent homelessness, right? That's what it is. It's a program to prevent homelessness for those that can't afford to pay their rent. Then that the government steps in to subsidize it. And they'll subsidize it to the extent of over 90% of what you're paying. You got a flat in New York that's costing you $3,000 a month, and the government says you're on a minimum wage job. You can only afford to pay $200 of that. So the government steps in, and they pay the other $2,800 to Rich Dad or his ilk in perpetuity. But remember, who's paying those taxes? You are. I am, through debased currency. Your housing dollars are worth less. So even if you didn't have to actually pay taxes to the government, you're still paying somebody. I mean, who cares who you're paying it to? If it's pernicious, if it's onerous, if it's burdensome, it's bad. I don't care if the burden's coming from a government source or a private source. If it feels the effects are identical, why should I give a crap? So to blame the government, to blame the tax collectors is not fair, any more than it's fair to blame the private tax collectors that are charging the cost of living. Do you understand how this thing works? So let's not play stupid here. Okay, it's not going to fly when you stand before your owner someday. And don't think that you don't have an owner, and don't think you won't have to stand before him someday. Yeah, so just because America is still the greatest country in the world, the best house in a bad neighborhood, it has fallen a long way. So when I hear all these people exalting the virtues of America and all this, listen, it's fallen a long way, okay? And I don't know how you are going to condone, okay, the nut being made artificially harder and harder to crack. The raising of the bar, okay, to enter middle class prosperity, harder and harder, more elusive, okay? So while you're touting the virtues of America, just always remember that we have fallen very far, that we had a coup in 1963 where they murdered Kennedy, that it looked vastly different in America now if we didn't allow this movement of the Overton window, okay? Remember, they don't want problem solved. Kennedy was solving problems by being an egalitarian, by releasing the sound money to the public, supplanting the Federal Reserve, okay? And we've had one opportunity after another. Okay, what happened on 9/11, I can't speak to. That was monstrous, satanic, but that's how these people roll. They don't give a crap how many people they kill in their wake of their destruction of the country. But we've fallen a long way, and we're just, oh, well, get on with your life. That's in the past. No, I'm not going to get on with my life. The bailout of 2008, no, that's recent history. We should go back and correct that. Have that market correction that should have taken place in 2008. Let the thieves go to jail. Let them fail. Okay? That's what should have happened. But anyhow, yeah, I mean, I still agree. You know, I'm a very patriotic American, and part of that is dissent sometimes. It is pointing out our defects and flaws, and if we're backsliding as a nation, which we have been, then you've got to say it, man. Sing it out. If you know they're opposing social Darwinian economics in America, you've got to say it loud and proud. And if anybody disagrees with you, say, look, let's sit down. Let's do the math here. You think that nut's not getting harder to crack? Let me prove to you how it is. How we've got a shrinking percentage of homeowners in California. We are the guinea pig state. And the rest of the nation is behind the curve. Do you understand that's a bad thing? That's a bad thing to make housing unaffordable. And that's what's coming to your state if things keep going in this trajectory. Because Trump hasn't successfully stopped it yet. But I stand behind him. I'm all in because I know he's smart. I believe he's a decent character, and I could be deceived, but I have the right to be wrong. But for now, I'm still all in. The establishment, I see how much they hated him because they sense too. intuitively that he's a righteous dude, that he's not caring just about his billions, but he cares about regular people being free. He knows what I'm talking about. He knows what I mean about, you know, the fear and the insecurity people experience. He understands the need for the welfare system now. He understands that crime is induced and the dubious war is induced and the national debt is induced by this corruption. He knows. So let's just carry on here. But, yeah, America's great. But, I mean, you've got to season this, exaltation of America being, we're the what do they call it? The exceptional people, right? The Americans and all this and the beacon of freedom around the world. I get it. And people want to come here from